Bingo! We're back. 12 o'clock rock. Okay, this is Aloha United We Stand. We call it Aloha United We Stand every Thursday at 12 noon because Aloha United Way collects money from people who are generous and philanthropic, and it gives that money to selected charities, of which there are, I want to say, 254, and maybe rising. Mm-hmm. And so we want to talk to the charities. That's the deal. We'd love to talk to the charities because they form the social safety net. And we don't think people know enough about the social safety net in Hawaii. We don't think they know enough about you, Jennifer. Ma'a. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so what is it that you do with Easter Seals?
So my official title is Director of Youth and Adult Programs. So I basically oversee all of the programs that are related to the youth population and the adult population statewide. So from Hilo to Waimea and Kauai.
Oh, all through the state.
Yeah,
so,
throughout the state, yeah.
And these are programs to do what?
So these services are provided to individuals who have intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Example?
It could be anything from autism, cerebral palsy, and anything in between, Downs. There's various different diagnoses, but we don't really focus too much on the diagnoses. These services are really there to provide support to move individuals towards independence and self-sufficiency, employment, and really just offer whatever support that they need that's preventing them or barriers that may be there that we can help assist with.
We're happy you're here.
Thank you.
We know you made a big movie.
Yes.
And it's going to play on, what is it, April 24th?
Yes, on K5.
K5, okay, with Edgy Lee. Woo!
Yeah.
That's going to be a nice movie. You've seen the movie?
No, I have not.
It's going to be a nice movie, I guarantee it.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
It's a full hour, you know?
Right.
6:30 to 7:30, yeah, on the 24th.
Yes.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is that's a lot of television time. You know, a half an hour is more likely for a situation like this, but good that you made the movie. Mm-hmm. What do you think the movie covers?
So I'm not the star in the movie. However, I do think that I'm maybe a few minutes in it where we're talking about the different services. But I believe that what it is it talks about the different impact that Easter Seals has had on various different families and individuals throughout the last 70 years. Easter Seals Hawaii has been around for 70 years and has touched a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, well, you know, before you came to the studio, Marley, your what do you call it, PR person, and I were looking at the web, and we saw that the national website, easterseals.org, I think it is, has a very interesting story about a guy named Edgar Allan. Edgar Allan was, I think he was a businessman in Ohio in 1907, and a trolley hit his child and disabled his child, crippled his child. And he meant to do something about it, so he went on a mission to create the predecessor of Easter Seals. It was called the Crippled Child Support System, or words to that effect, and it got to be national. By 1952, it was under the term Easter Seals, and it was a national organization. But that would make it not way over, but something over 100 years.
Yeah.
And you got involved. Hawaii got involved pretty early in the game. If Hawaii
1946.
Been doing this. Yeah. So, how big is the organization here in Hawaii?
The organization, in terms of facilities, we cover 14 facilities across the state. Staffing, we have approximately 450 staff.
Oh, volunteer?
No, these are full-time,
Oh, wow, that's
part-time
serious
staff.
staff then,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, it's a big organization. And we touch about a little over 2,000 individuals annually.
Those are your clients, so to speak, people you
Yes.
help.
Yes.
And you have other sources of income, I suppose, other than Aloha United Way?
Yeah.
Or is that the only one?
We have what we've identified as about 7 different programs, from early intervention, birth, through life, and 7 different programs, various different funding sources for all the different programs.
Yeah.
including
Oh, I have-
state and federal.
People give to a certain program sometime, is that what happens?
Yes.
Within Easter Seals?
Yes, sometimes it's specific to islands, sometimes it's very specific to an exact program in an island. But most goes to the general Easter Seals organization, as we all are one organization and really help to support each other.
Yeah. Why are you doing, are you a trained social worker? Are you a trained nonprofit person? How did you get into this business?
I have been in the nonprofit field for about 13 or 14 years or so. So nonprofit is really at the heart of my career and what I love to do. But Easter Seals, I've been at Easter Seals for about 2 years. So my background is mostly in operations and grants and development of that sort.
Why do you like to do this? I mean, sometimes it's sad, isn't it?
No, I would say that there are a lot of challenges that come, funding challenges, people challenges, but sad, not so much, just challenges, I think. But, you know, whether it's with the disability population or typically developing people, there's always challenges. Specifically with Easter Seals Hawaii, I have a long history with people who have developmental disabilities,
Yeah.
as a caregiver, as a child, and up until now. So I've always been a part of the field, but more general nonprofit as my professional background.
Yeah.
So
there's a gratification in it for you. What does gratify you? I mean, what are the things you look forward to in this job?
I think building relationships with people, that's the most important thing for me. But that includes staff, but it also includes the people that we provide services to.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest people that you'll meet, just kind and loving and carefree and grateful.
Yeah.
And
That's really
awesome.
important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's so, you know, throughout the nonprofit community, the social safety net community, that the gratification is often in being appreciated for your effort, and that appreciation makes you want to do it some more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. We're going to take a short break, okay?
Okay.
That's Jennifer La'a. She's the program director at Easter Seals, which is 70 years in Hawaii. We'll be right back.
Aloha, I'm Kaui Lucas, host of Hawaii is My Mainland, here on Think Tech Hawaii every Friday at 3 p.m. We address issues of importance for those of us who live here on the most isolated landmass on the planet. Please come join me Fridays at 3 p.m. Mahalo.
Aloha, my name is Justina Spiritu, and I'm the co-host of Hawaii Farmers Series. This is my co-host, Matthew Johnson, and you can catch us every Thursday at 4 p.m. at thinktechhawaii.com. What do we talk about, Matt?
So on Hawaii Farmers Series, we're going to be bringing on the farmers and also supporter of farmers, including restaurants, caterers, as well as government supporters and nonprofits to hear their background stories and understanding our local ag community just a little bit better.
Yeah, essentially there's a lot more that goes into farming and the local food community beyond just producing the food. And we want to feature and get the background story on all these folks and see how we all work together as a community. So join us every Thursday. Aloha.
Know these
You're
things.
you're so calm.
Okay, we're back, we're live. We're learning, that's what it's all about. By the way, we have a hotline. If anybody wants to call, they can call 415-871-2470. Oh, there it is on the screen. That's the number. Give us a call. You can ask hard questions to Jennifer La'a. So, you know, the thing about it is that people in the community don't really know what's on the other side of the safety net. And I think part, for me anyway, you want to know why I do this? Is to explain that to them, reveal that to them. Not necessarily, you know, to make them feel guilty or anything, but to have them understand there are two parts to our world. One is the part they live in, and the other part is what other people live in, and they need to know that, especially in an island state. Yeah, we're really big family. We should be, anyway. And so I guess I need to know what happens when you have a disabled person in a family. I mean, worst case analysis. There's no Easter seals here. Nobody is going to help. What's the slippery slope?
Oh gosh. I think that what is happening, right? I mean, there's various different ways to answer that question. I think there's a medical model way of answering that question, which I don't feel like I have enough expertise to tell you in terms of if there's a medical condition that needs to be addressed. But as far as, you bring up an interesting point that there's the side that everybody knows and then there's the other side. And I think the direction that Easter Seals is going is to really bring the two worlds together, to integrate the two, so that it's not a fix you model. So it's not about really, it's almost not even about charity, but it's more about empowerment. So when an individual has a disability, oftentimes we're looking at that individual as somebody that needs to be fixed in order to be part of the community. But the way that we see it is the individual should be integrated in a full member of the community, and that there are different things that we as Easter Seals can help to make that connection and to help to integrate. And so I think what happens, sadly, is that if there is no Easter Seals, that a person becomes very isolated, doesn't have a whole lot of activities, can't really, their dreams and their value is very limited because people live in shame or embarrassment, or just not really understanding that there is so much more that is out there and that can help to integrate a person, because all of us bring different skill sets and different challenges to the world.
Yeah, skill sets and physical abilities to the world. Yeah, so, I mean, I guess I need to see it through the eyes of somebody who is disabled. And I suppose there's lots of different kinds of disabling conditions. There are some conditions where you really can't be independent. Am I right? I don't know if you deal with that or how you categorize those things. But if I have a problem, medical or physical or whatever, that makes me unable to work, or unable to get around, or unable even to talk to people or participate in the human condition, what can you do for me to empower me?
So there's various different services that we offer, primarily for adults. We also provide 0 to 3, so to help with things like speech or occupational therapy or physical therapy. So that's usually for infants, for families that are experiencing some challenges and have a diagnosis.
Like what? Like
Maybe autism. Yeah, that's
okay.
one. They may not even have to have an actual diagnoses, but they may be delayed in some of their milestones. So that's for our infancy. During the more school-aged children that we provide services to, there's not as many services, and so we can talk about what we do have for youth-aged children, but the funding sources are not as available for that age. The expectation is that they're going to receive their services through more Department of Education.
In school,
Right,
by
in
DOE.
school. Right.
Well, just a digression on the point of money.
Okay.
Is it that if I have tons of money, let's assume I have tons of money. This is a wild assumption.
Okay.
that I don't need you, that I can, pick up the phone and call people, medical people or social work people or somebody, pay them. Pay them to take care of me. I pay them to train me, pay them to to empower me. Or my family will spend the money, whatever, and I don't have to call you. But if I don't have any money and I need services, I need these things that will help me retrain or train and empower me, then I have to call you. And you will provide money. You'll provide services that cost money that I couldn't otherwise get. Is there a financial divide here? I want to know.
Oh, that's a good question. I think for the most part, the answer is no. For the services that we do provide, we typically provide them at low to no cost. And like I said, the funding is available to pick up most of the cost. So for the most part, I would say no. If you had tons and tons of money and resources, you may not need to go through an agency. You may be able to hire private care or do something on your own.
Suppose I had money, but I didn't want to spend it. I mean, or for some reason, it just didn't occur to me to spend it. And I come to you and I say, I know you can help people who are handicapped. Would you give me the same services as someone who had no money?
It depends what the age group you're talking about. If they're an adult, then they look at so if you had a child who was an adult,
Yeah.
then we would look at the adult's income and not your income. And that would be how they could qualify for services.
Okay, you're going to take a look at the picture of the family
Right.
and all that and make some judgments
Right.
about that. Okay, so then you decide that, well, to go back to my original thought, is that some people you can truly help, make them, empower them, get them, occupied in an occupation, make them productive members of the community where without your help they might not be able to do that. And is that a big part of your clientele? What's the biggest part? The ones who you really can't help them become, active, productive members of the community, or is it the part that you can help them become active members of the community?
Yeah, I think it's the part that we can help them, or we can provide supports. Where I had left off was I was talking about youth. So there are some, and not just youth, but you were saying how do we provide that support? So we do have one-to-one. So you're saying for people that may need constant support, maybe for life, there is that support available, and there are people, especially if there are medical
And
necessities.
you provide it?
Yeah. So we provide that one-on-one.
Yeah. Something you said also I want to follow up on, and that's this whole thing about shame. If I'm handicapped, especially if I'm physically handicapped or, I'm different. I don't have the same physical capability that an ordinary person on the street would have. There are people walking up and down Bishop Street all day. The ones who are, don't worry about being, empowered. They are empowered. I just, people who have that physical limitation feel shame because in our society, they're caused to feel, shame. It's the way it works.
Right.
And how do you psychologically stop them from feeling that way? How do you get the community to help them not feel that way? What's the nirvana here? How would you like it to be, both on the part of the client and the part of the people he deals with?
I think that there would be full integration, and that any population wouldn't feel that they needed to be segregated from the rest of the community. And I think how we achieve that is through education. I think we achieve that through training. But most importantly, I think we achieve that through relationships. When you have an individual who you may perceive to have certain limitations, we typically try to approach that individual and look at their abilities rather than their disabilities. And so when they are in a situation like a workplace environment and then they have a coworker, that coworker through relationships really learns about this individual beyond what they see as a disability and can connect to people because there's so many more things to offer than what is maybe a physical limitation that they may perceive.
So part of it is to train the people around the individual.
Absolutely, yes.
To respect them properly. I mean, I think it's complicated because I think a lot of people would feel pity, okay? But the handicapped person, I mean, you hear this all the time, don't pity me. Just work with me, man. Just treat me as an ordinary person, as I wouldn't ask more than, I don't want to be pitied, because pity creates shame.
Right. No, absolutely, that's right on. And I think that that's some of our own perceptions that we're bringing into the picture and not necessarily the truth and reality of what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, so how do we do this? How do we achieve this benefit? I mean, so I come into you and I say, look, I'm not all together here. I need your help. What do you do for me? Give me an entry process.
Well, I mean, that's a very general question. Are you an adult that's seeking services?
Yes.
Okay. I think right now the trajectory of services is changing. It used to be institutions decades ago. We're moving to more, we moved from that to more in the community sort of segregated programming. And that still is occurring, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I think the transition is now from that into a fully integrated, not just in the community, but being a part of and being a valuable member of community.
That means working.
I think that work is probably the most significant way that somebody can do that. So what I would want to do is to look at you and ask you, you know, what are your interests? And this is a process. It's not just a conversation, but really observing and being part of your life and seeing what you're interested in. And not everybody communicates verbally. So there may be various different ways that I'm going to have to observe that and see what really piques your interest, what really are your skills, what are your abilities. And it's looking beyond and past just the obvious, typical, you know, things that we look at. But I think what's really key is whether you have a disability or you don't have a disability, some people can work and some people can't work. And it's not just based on whether you have an ability or a disability, but whether you're motivated and you want to. So you can have somebody who has all the abilities in the world and is absolutely not motivated to work versus somebody who may have disabilities but really wants
Yeah, that's
employment.
an interesting comparison. So I'm going to try to make myself into Mr. Potato Man here.
Okay.
Okay, so I come in and I'm disabled, but I want to work. What can you do for me? You have to vet me out, right? You have to learn about me and my family and my, you know, my inclinations and my psyche, I guess. But knowing all of that, what do you do for me?
So assuming we have funding and staff and all of that is available, which by the way are some of our barriers, but if we have all of those things available and we've done assessments, I've done all of those things, really
You do it.
Well, not me
Who
particularly.
does it?
We have staff who do that.
Social work staff.
No, they're employment specialists.
Employment specialists?
Yes.
Okay, so they're actually going to find me a job. That's what it's about.
Yes.
Okay.
So they work with, as much as they will work with you, they're also working with employers and building relationships with employers. And that's what we really want to do too, is we want to network with different employers out there that are willing to see how this is a benefit.
Not all employers are going to warm to this idea.
No, probably
so
not.
what kind of person or company or employer person do you look for when you're going to try to find somebody where the probability is, you know, better than average that this employer is actually going to hire one of your clients?
I think, so this is just social engineering, social networking. It's
So we're
the
talking
same
about-
thing, like it's everything that we do, right? I mean, when you want a job, you kind of see who you know, you make connections, you ask family members. It's the same thing. We do the same thing.
But
We try to
this
see.
is different though than if I didn't have a disability. I have a disability.
No, it's actually the same thing.
Okay.
So we oftentimes have connectors. If we know that, say, you're interested in working at Subway, I don't know, I'm just picking a place. And
I like Subway.
okay. And we know somebody who works at Subway. We may start there. But it's like I mentioned in the beginning and how we start to change the way people perceive individuals with disabilities. It's not just talking to them, but it's really building relationships. So we, as Easter Seals, builds our relationship with the employers, getting them to trust and know that we're in it with them. This is not something that they're going to have to do alone. This is something that we're in it with
You're
them
going to give them
do.
a good experience.
We're going to give them a good experience. This individual, you, are going to be provided with a job coach. So somebody who's going
job
to,
coach?
yeah, somebody who's going
You're
to,
going to give me a job coach?
going to give you a job coach.
I mean, a job coach anyway.
Yeah, see,
Never mind.
exactly. I do too. So we have job coaches who will stay as long as they need to stay. I mean, the idea is to fade out and to help you to be independent. But that's different for everybody, and the time frame on that is different for everybody. And that employer needs to know that we have a good relationship with them. They can call us at any time. And not only is that going to happen, but we're going to also try to help find ways to help the employer save money.
Why? Is it cheaper to hire a handicapped?
No, definitely. They need to be making
need to
the
be
same
treated like
amount of
everybody
money.
else, yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. But oftentimes there's job carving. So we can carve out the thing that maybe the vice president or the controller is doing that really we're paying them way too much money to be providing that work. And so we can carve some of those things out, and we can say that based on this job description and this job title.
Can help you save money
can
in
help
the
you save
company.
money.
Yeah. Now, what about the company? I mean, you're going to have a champion there. You're going to have somebody in the company you deal with, you have the relationship with, who is understanding, tolerant, understands the social safety net, and understands the the magic of being generous with people. But he may not be the only one, and your employee, your client may go into that company and find, oh, there are others who are not so pretty. Do you follow up? Do you check out and see how this client is doing in the company? Do you compare notes with the champion who hired this client and make sure that the work environment is as you had hoped?
Yes, and that's what's been the most amazing thing about employment is that there's education that happens with the coworkers as well, either just by being around and seeing what's going on, or actual direct discussions that happen between the job coach and other coworkers. And more often than not, there's such a positive experience that comes from that, and other coworkers and employees have such a positive morale boost and experience from what's happening. And typically we usually get employers that call and say, we need to hire more people. Do you have anyone?
Hire the handicapped.
Yeah, well, it could just be, we need to hire somebody. Do you have anyone, and the language starts
And
to
you serve as
change.
a good source.
Right.
Doesn't matter handicapped or not, these people are good
Absolutely.
people.
Yeah.
One other question is, how long do you follow them? In other words, you successfully placed me somewhere, and you set all these things in motion, and it looks like we made a match here somewhere. How long do you follow me? Is it forever?
It really is individual and it depends. But as far as Easter Seals is concerned, we'll have a relationship with that employer forever. But for you as an individual, if you need every day, the whole time that you're there, we'll do that for weeks. Sometimes it could be a month. Sometimes you're totally fine and you've had now what we call natural support to your coworkers that are able to.
I like that. Yeah.
Right? I mean, because as coworkers, we naturally support each other anyway.
Well, when you reach them at a certain level, everybody is nice.
Yeah. Well,
I hope so anyway. I like to believe that.
yeah, so it could be, we could, what we call fade, month, 6 months, a year.
yeah.
It really just depends.
It doesn't always work though, right?
Well, I think it doesn't always work for all of us, but we've had.
Okay, but I got that. We got to take a break now so I can digest what you just said. Jennifer La'a, it doesn't work for all of us, or any of us for that matter. We go through life, we hope to have a decent life, but there's no difference.
Aloha, I'm Kili'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the Think Tech Hawaii broadcast network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right and what's good and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week, we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to Think Tech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the Think Tech Hawaii broadcast network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
One, bingo, we're back. Jennifer La'a. As we last left this exciting story, she pointed out, that it doesn't work sometime with placing the handicapped in local businesses, but then it doesn't work for regular non-handicapped people either. So we all have those issues. What happens when it doesn't work though? What do you do?
We sometimes can pick up from where we left off and look for another job. Sometimes we have to start all over again. Maybe it wasn't a good match for various different reasons, and we have to figure out what's going on and maybe start all over again.
Yeah. Now suppose it's me, I'm still me,
Okay.
and I'm not only handicapped, but I'm elderly. I'm a real senior. Does that change this formula at all?
Well, I think that everyone has a right to retire, so employment is not a.
Do they have a right not to retire?
Sure. So if you're elderly and you still want to work, we'll still do what we can.
Yeah.
But the elder population may want to do things like volunteer or just do what any typical elderly person does. Maybe you just relax and hang out, and so I think we need to be sensitive to people's
talk
ages
shows,
and and where they are in their life.
Yeah, okay, right, so you'd be sensitive to that. And what about the younger part where you can't place them because they're too young?
So we have a youth services program, which is one of the programs that I oversee, and that's for ages 6 to 22, primarily on Oahu. And like I told you before, there's not a whole lot of funding available for youth just because they're still in the Department of Education. So what services we typically provide are after-school care programs, as well as intercession. So
What kind of after-school program?
okay, so let me start by saying that that's usually 2 to 6 because when a child is done with school, parents still have to work. And so we're able to provide that gap service. So they can come to our program. We have one in town, we have one in Kapolei, and we now have a new one in
So
Kailua.
physical premises.
Yes.
So they come to your center, whatever it is.
Right.
And they do something. What do they do?
They can do things like go out into the community and go on excursions. They can learn music. We can often bring people in that do music or dance or art.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, cooking.
Yeah.
Real basic life skills as well. We focus on teaching and not just having fun, but like
What's
learning
life
life
skill
skills.
basic? What is that?
Cooking. Cooking's a good one. Kids should know how to make mac and cheese or warm stuff up in the microwave. So things like that, we work on that. But recently we just got funding from the Honolulu City and County to provide employment services actually for young people. So what we're doing is we're providing them education on soft skills. So how to dress, how to do a resume, how to do an interview. And then we're also providing them with internship opportunities. So we're looking for companies that will partner with us and provide 14, 15, 16-year-old kids with opportunities to see what it's like to work in their office.
Yeah. Yeah. And how successful are you?
Well, with that, we just started this month.
Okay.
So
What about the families? I remember we had this really interesting show in the Big Island, and a high school in Kona, Kealakahe High School in Kona. And there were a lot of Micronesian recent arrivals in this high school. And what the school found was that nobody had life skills, not the children, not the parents. So they started giving classes to the parents. Do you touch the parents in this case?
I think that we probably need to do a little bit more of that. We try to provide parents with information. And when I say more of that, I think we should just do it more often, because we do. We try to provide them with information, resources for any kind of assistance or support that they need. Right now, when kids go to school and they might have a disability, I think a lot of times parents are thinking, what program are they going to go to? And they worry about that and how to pay for that. So we can help them by providing them just resources to know what is next after school. But more importantly, and again, I'm going to go back to employment because I just think it's so powerful and important, we're starting to help people to see that their only option after school is not just what program are you going to go to, but if you want to work, you can work.
Why is it so important?
Because I think when you have, I know I have children. When you have children, you have dreams for them. You want them to be happy and successful and live a full life. And I don't think that you can get all of those things in a program. We do our very best in the programs that we do have, but to have what I call social capital, friends, people that are not just paid to be with you, but people who actually want to be with you. That's valuable. That's the kind of stuff that make our life, right?
Sure. Well, it's self-identity. It's a self-image. It's like Lee Cataluna's play, I'm somebody. I'm somebody. I belong.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned funding. We have something on the screen. It magically appeared.
So right on this screen, we have
What is
boys'
that?
night and we have girls' night. So I was telling you that we have after-school care programs for kids. We also have intercessions. So when the schools are out, again, parents still need to work, and if not, kids typically just stay home and watch TV. So we have that. But we also have boys' night and girls' group or girls' night or different activities for either boys or girls. And this is just weekend fun, doing things on the weekend, doing things on a Friday night.
It's all part of your programs. Eh?
Yep.
So first funding. You mentioned a couple of times that there are certain age groups, where you don't have funding, and then you indicated there was some issues sometimes about funding. What's the funding? What's the funding arrangement, and what are the funding issues?
So for youth services, we don't have a regular funding stream. So for some of the adult programs, we get funding through the Department of Health. So it helps to supplement the funding that is really needed to have a really good, robust program. But we still need additional donors to give money or often seek grants. For youth services, we don't have a state department that's funding these programs. However, we've been so fortunate that we've gotten a lot of different grants to help to provide services, because if not, like I said, there's no real funding stream, and parents can't often pay what it takes to run a program like that. And so we really need supplemental funding so that we can continue to provide this, what I think is really important service.
Yeah, I do too. You also mentioned, to follow up on your reference to the neighbor islands, you are on all the counties, and you have clientele there. So of your 2,000 clientele, how many are on the neighbor islands, roughly?
Oh gosh, I don't have that number.
Is it more than half?
I would say probably around half.
Yeah. And one thing we've heard over the years is that there's a lot of poverty on the neighbor islands, and there aren't enough agencies, not enough funding to really take care of it, and it's really too bad. And the disparity is present on the neighbor islands, if not greater than in Oahu. Some very rich people and some people who live on the margins. So how do you handle the neighbor island activities? You have to fly out there, or you have people who are employees of Easter Seals on the neighbor islands.
Oh,
and
yes.
With offices and facilities they operate. What's it like? Describe the neighbor island operation in contradistinction to what's happening in Oahu.
So neighbor islands are typically smaller, but we have a large amount of actual facilities out in the neighbor islands, and we have some of the greatest programs on the neighbor islands. We have great staff, great program managers, really, really good programs out there, and people that just run a tight ship and get things done. They may not have as many resources as they do on Oahu, just because Oahu, for a lot of different organizations and employers, if they're statewide, their main base is Oahu, right? So sometimes it feels like it's very Oahu-centric. But we try as much as we can to provide as many resources. So I do typically fly out quarterly to each of the different islands, and as some of the other staff do on Oahu, we try to have a neighbor island presence as well. I think that's really important.
Yeah. So where is the organization going, Jennifer? What do you see, in the next 5-10 years? Will your challenges be greater? Will the number of potential clientele be greater? Will you have greater issues around funding? What do you see down the road?
I see that the nation and the state, and thus Easter Seals, is changing in the way that we provide services. That we're really more focused on community integration and empowerment, and just educating the community. I think funding will always be challenging. It's a nonprofit. I understand that there's challenges. I think it's really important to just get the word out to people all over the state of Hawaii and know that we're doing really good work, and please support us.
Well, lucky for us, because we have camera 2. Camera 2 is right there, as you see it, and you have the opportunity to talk to them. You'd be talking to the governor, the legislature, a bunch of those kids in the bar drinking after hours. You're talking to all of them. What do you say to them now?
I just think that you need to understand what it is that we at Easter Seals Hawaii does, other agency providers around the state that we're really have limited resources but are doing our very best to provide quality services and just to continue to support the work that we do, moving towards empowerment, community integration, employment, and supporting this direction because it's a change in the way that we provide services and we're going to need some help and we're going to need some collaboration and partnerships to really get this done right.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to camera 3 now. Okay, there I am. I knew I could do it. Okay, the thing is we got 2 worlds here on both sides of the disparity curve, and the social safety net needs our attention. These guys are doing great work, and they're giving their lives and hearts and souls. We should be with them, not isolated, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jennifer.